Let's talk about Vladimir Putin's lackeys in international politics. Those that empower and support him. Now, before the British Parliament turned into a complete circus about 1 year ago, it was the continual swapping of Italian prime ministers that was the laughingstock of European parliaments. Just to put that into perspective, in the last 20 years, the idiot that forms the basis for this video, Silvio Berlusconi, has been prime minister in 4 governments. So, let's understand this guy a little more. Only a little. His biography is immense and frankly most of it is pointless for this video. He served as Prime Minister from 1994 to 1995, 2001 to 2006 and 2008 to 2011. The on-off nature of his tenure was testament to the unpredictability of the Italian political environment. As a politician, he was known for his populist political style and brash personality. In his long tenure, he was often accused of being an authoritarian leader and a strongman. Frankly, I think he saw himself as a Mussolini, just more successful. He was clearly fond of the dictator. In 2003, during an interview with Nicholas Farrell of The Spectator, Berlusconi claimed that Mussolini had been a benign dictator who did not murder opponents but sent them on holiday. In 2013, he returned to calling Mussolini a good leader whose biggest mistake was signing up to exterminate the Jews. These are not the views of a good person, but those of someone who clearly wants more. He remains a controversial figure who divides public opinion and political analysts. Supporters emphasize his leadership skills and charismatic power. We personally think that he oozes slime ball with a hint of mafioso. On the 1st of August 2013, Berlusconi was convicted of tax fraud. His 4-year prison sentence was confirmed, and he was banned from holding public office for 2 years. Aged 76, he was exempted from direct imprisonment, and instead served his sentence by doing unpaid community service. In Italy, 3 years are automatically pardoned. He had been sentenced to a gross imprisonment for more than 2 years, and the anti-corruption Severino law, which banned him from 6 years, expelled him from the Senate. Berlusconi pledged to stay leader of Forza Italia throughout his custodial sentence and public office ban. After his ban ended, Berlusconi ran for and was elected as an MEP at the 2019 European Parliament election. He returned to the Senate after winning a seat in the 2022 Italian general election. For us, his playboy lifestyle was just sleazy, and he was a regular at the bunga bunga sex parties. For an old man like him, it just smacks of someone who cannot age gracefully. Needless to say, this deviant will be part of the new Italian coalition government, and he has once again grabbed headlines, not for sex this time, but rather by boasting to his MPs that he had renewed bonds of friendship with Vladimir Putin, through exchanging lovely letters in which the Russian leader had called him number 1 among his 5 best friends. In audio of the meeting obtained by the Italian news agency La Presse, Mr. Berlusconi said Mr. Putin had sent him 20 bottles of vodka for his birthday and a very lovely letter. He went on, I responded with bottles of Lambrusco and an equally sweet note, adding that he had re-established relations with President Putin, a little too much. Russian ministers have said on many occasions that we are at war with them because we are providing weapons and funding to Ukraine, Mr. Berlusconi added. I can't personally give my opinion because if it is leaked to the press, it will turn out to be a disaster. Forza Italia, Mr. Berlusconi's party, sought to clarify the explosive comments by suggesting that its leader was talking about previous contacts with the Kremlin and insisting that his stand on Russia was in line with Europe and the United States. Sure thing, we believe you. But the episode is yet another headache for Giorgia Meloni, who is preparing to name her right-wing government, which will include Forza Italia figures and most likely Berlusconi. After winning last month's election with her hard-right, socially conservative views, Ms. Meloni has sought to reassure Italy's Western allies by repeating her stance in favor of NATO and continued weapons supplies to Ukraine, but she is in coalition with Silvio Berlusconi and Matteo Salvini, both chums of the Russian dictator. In 2015, Ukraine banned Mr. Berlusconi for 3 years for visiting Crimea, illegally annexed by Russia, with Vladimir Putin. So clearly the Ukrainians see him for what he is. A wannabe dictator. The veteran Italian politician once gifted the Kremlin leader a duvet cover bearing their faces. During the election campaign, he said Mr. Putin had just wanted to replace Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky with decent people. The kind that kidnap citizens, disappear priests amongst other exciting hobbies. Mr. Berlusconi's new comments come after a series of run-ins with Ms. Meloni. Amid reports that she was blocking his preference for a minister, he refused to back her choice of Speaker for the upper house of Parliament. The actions of a child not getting the sweets that he wants. A photograph emerged of a note he had written calling her opinionated, overbearing, arrogant and offensive. She sniped back, "Berlusconi forgot one point, I'm not blackmailable." Burn. The tension has increased as the old fart insisted one of his MPs be named Justice Minister, despite an apparent lack of agreement by Ms. Meloni. "Berlusconi is like a scorpion with a frog, he stings even if he also knows he will die," she said, according to the newspaper Corriere della Sera. The power play between the two shows Ms. Meloni's outmaneuvering of the 86-year-old Mr. Berlusconi, with her rapid rise occupying the right wing that he once dominated. In his government of 2008, he gave her a first big break by appointing her Italy's youngest ever minister at 31. After he was forced from office 3 years later, his power waned amidst his judicial woes. With Ms. Meloni now set to become Prime Minister at 45, a generational victory has seemed complete. But the ongoing tension between the two reveals a battle that is not yet over. Their opponents appear to be relishing it. The centrist politician Carlo Calenda wrote that the only other thing Berlusconi could do to hamper the birth of the government was to bomb the headquarters of Ms. Meloni's party. But the political drama doesn't bode well. For the EU, holding its breath over Italy's first far-right leader since the World War II, it will deepen fears about the country's foreign policy direction. And for exhausted Italians, the near-daily reports of bust-ups at the top are far from the stability they crave. Now you see where the British government learned its trade, from their Italian colleagues. Going forward, Silvio Berlusconi represents a part of NATO members that is growing weary of the cost of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. There have already been protests throughout Italy of people calling for an end to their country's involvement with NATO, and unconditional peace in Ukraine. Now, I cannot say for sure what side of the political spectrum these people stand, but what they are doing is a tacit condonement of the Putin regime, and that is unacceptable. I keep banging on about it, but any form of appeasement is bad and there is historical precedent to back that up. Just to put into perspective what he and his supporters are potentially threatening. Rome is thought to have provided Ukraine with €150 million, or $158 million of heavy machine guns, man-portable anti-tank and anti-aircraft weapons, ammunition, and protective gear, which have been sent in 2 tranches. A new package was pledged by the Italian government early in May and is now being delivered. Although the official list is classified, this third package includes an undisclosed number of towed 155mm FH-70 howitzers, and, possibly, a stock of multi-role armored vehicles. Now obviously this level of support isn't the biggest by any stretch, but it is important, and it does show intent not to lay back in the face of tyranny. What this means is that people like Silvio Berlusconi represent a real and present danger to the safety of Ukraine, Europe and potentially the world. This is purely through their tacit and direct condonement of tyranny that threatens world peace. I would go so far as to say, and I hate quoting George W. Bush, but you are either with us or against us.